Welcome to the first annual Inclusion Fusion Special Needs Ministry Web Summit, and it's being brought to you by Key Ministry and PajamaConference.com. My name is Cindi Ferrini, and I'm here with my husband, Joe Ferrini, and we wanted just to tell you a little bit about ourselves and our topic and what we have to offer for you as you've come to this summit today. Again, my name is Cindi Ferrini. I'm an author, a speaker. My most important job is being a mother, and I have 3 children. Joe and I have 3 children. Our youngest is 22. Our next child is 27, and she lives with her husband and grandchild away from us. And our oldest is Joey, who is 30 years old, and he is our child with special needs. Joey has cerebral palsy. He also is mentally retarded, developmentally delayed, and has a seizure disorder, epilepsy, and has a number of allergies that are severe. And so that's kind of the package that Joey is rolled up into. And I'd like just to let Joe share a little bit about himself.
Well, I am a dentist by profession. We are on staff with Campus Crusade for Christ, associate staff. We're part of the national speaker team with Family Life Ministry, so we have the great privilege to speak around the country about talking about the importance of building oneness in a marriage relationship, no matter what the circumstances might be. And we are honored to have this opportunity to be with you today as well. We want to start off our time here by having you imagine that you are sitting in a large waterbed. Get that visual? And imagine there are 5 people in that waterbed. And for one miraculous moment in time, that waterbed is completely still. No one's moving. And then someone decides to move. And there's always one in the crowd, isn't there? And now, is that the only person moving? Well, of course not. When that one person moves in that waterbed, everybody's moving in that waterbed. The same thing applies in a marriage, in a family relationship situation, where when you introduce a special needs child or a special need adult into that family dynamics, it sends tremors throughout the entire family relationships. And it certainly brings shockwaves to a marriage relationship as well.
Joe and I really appreciated learning about that example from a magazine that we read that was the Sarnia Observer. And another one that we wanted to share with you was from the Seattle Times. It said they confided about marital strain, and they reported 80% divorce rate for parents of special needs children. They discussed the extraordinary expense of raising a developmentally disabled child, which the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has pegged at about $1 million over a lifetime.
In a similar publication, the Sunday Times from London puts the divorce rate among parents of children with autism as high as 4 out of 5 marriages. They go on to say, quote, "Frankly, I'm not surprised given how little assistance many couples receive in the context of having a marriage with special needs."
And because of these statistics, we realize that many people who might be attending this summit have in their life the, if you will, the title of being a single parent. And so in our book, Unexpected Journey, the chapters about 8 to 11, we have really concentrated on being able to meet the needs of a single parent as well as families who are in the have a marital status. And we realize that we're in a situation in terms of marriage that we have said in our marriage vows for better or for worse. But we know that where we are with a special needs child, as you probably are, is that we need each other. We need each other in a marriage, but we also need others in our life. And when one person abandons that marriage, it really has a cost that's carried with it.
So our encouragement to you as married couples is to stay the course. Do not quit, ever quit at all. You want to go to distance together. There are rewards along the way. They may not be rewards as you may have thought they would have been when you laid out your game plan for your marriage, the blueprints you may have had coming into that marriage relationship. But the blessings are many as you can stay the course.
Well, we want for this session with you to be talking about different relationships. We want to talk about marriage mattering, but also the idea that other relationships in our life are important as well. So in a marriage, we want to think about the idea of dividing and conquering. And Joe and I have felt like we've had to do that over the last 30 years. in order to be able to run our marriage, run our family, and just run and manage other things in our life. And so we want to just take the opportunity to have you thinking about some of the assumptions that perhaps go on in your life, as well as some of the taking those assumptions away and putting in the truth. For instance, does this sound familiar to you? The person alone in that pew must be divorced. How about this one? You must be very special parents to have a special child. Or, you make it look so easy. And then how about this one? You really know what you're doing. Well, all of those assumptions could be false. And we do tend, as a married couple, to try to make things look easy, to make things flow, and so other people may assume things about us that aren't necessarily true. So we want to, in our marriage, we want to learn how to divide and conquer so that we can have a little bit better in our lives, a little bit better having things run smoothly. So let's just first talk a little bit about pampering your marriage. Well, we can't do this for marriage thing for very long without having some time to ourselves, something that releases the pressure of every day caring for someone else's needs on a full-time basis. So a few of the things that Joe and I have worked into our marriage over the course of 32 years are a couple things that I'm going to share with you now. The first one is to plan intimacy. It may not be very romantic to have to plan times when you want to be together, but in real life, that's some of the things that we've had to do to really plan time when we wanted to be together, whether it was for intimacy or even just for taking a walk in the neighborhood. We have to plan it and make sure that our son, who has special needs, is cared for. And then also just taking the time to sit together, maybe just hold hands, take a walk, just really casual things that are everyday, sort of giving life to our relationship one moment, one day, 1 week at a time. And then laughing together. Looking at some of the events that we go through and just taking a lighthearted approach to them. Maybe even something like a candlelight dinner. We'd love to go out to have dinner, but we don't always have that luxury. So maybe doing it at home and making it special for each other at home. Watching a favorite show, just sometimes on our laptop in bed. We usually tend to have one television show that we watch together all the time since we've been married. And so we'll do that in the evening and just watch it on our laptop and just relax where it's quiet and we can enjoy that together. And Joe initiated something which I think I'll let you share about the 30-second kiss.
Yes, I'm pretty impressed with myself on this one. One way we felt that we really needed to increase the romance in our marriage relationship was that we would end our night with what we call the 30-second kiss. And after we pray together or read the Bible together, we will, before we say goodnight to each other, we'll have this 30-second kiss. And I have to admit, I should probably admit this to them, it's being a type A personality that I can be at times, the way that the first time that we did this went something like this. We closed our eyes, and I said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. At which point Cindi opens her eyes and says, "Stop that." And so we just kissed for a long time. And it's a wonderful way to end your day, and it can lead to other things as well. But go ahead, you should go ahead.
Well, also, when we talk about pampering our marriage, we really have to think about how purposeful we are. And so some of the things that we share may be very simple, but if you don't take the opportunity to do them, then they don't happen. So some other things that we have done together are just playing a card game, playing a board game, something where we can sort of release the pressures of everyday life and laugh and have some fun. Sometimes grocery shopping together, making a recipe together, going for coffee together, maybe even planning a weekend away when you have an opportunity, if you have someone that will care for that child that has special needs. We just tell people when you plan that weekend away, just don't forget to come home. And I know that sometimes we would love to be able to plan a week's vacation away, just the two of us, to go someplace. But that isn't a luxury that we have in the way that our family is. And so we have had to say, instead of a week in Italy, we have to be willing to take that cup of special coffee somewhere, maybe at a local coffee shop, and change our expectations and recognize that we can do something locally that will be just as nice.
Yeah, and I think you have a passport that sometimes helps to remind us of that important
Well, this is something that I put together. It's just very simple, and it's really with one of my girlfriends, but it could be used to pamper your marriage or just pamper a friendship even. But I have a couple young gals in my life who have special needs children, and they have expressed just how hard it is for them to really get out and do things as we've just expressed. And so one of my friends and I have decided that we would put together a passport, which we did, and it's just real simple. I just stamped a little passport on the front, and then we put our picture on the inside, and every time we get the opportunity to go to lunch, which is not often, but when we have that opportunity, we put a little stamp of the places that we've gone. So far we've gone to the United States, Italy, and to Greece. And so we'll try to get to a restaurant that maybe serves that kind of food, or look up in the library what that place is like, and then we talk about what that place is like, and if we visited, what would we do if we visited there? So it's not like we got to go there, but we did get to have fun, and we're enjoying the process of learning about a new place that maybe we'll never get to, but in the meantime we're going to take that adventure.
Mm-hmm. That's great. It really is a fun thing. It's fun to get these reports coming back from Cindi after she goes to Italy or wherever she's going. But another thing I want to talk about is just talk about care issues. This involves writing out on a piece of paper responsibilities, roles that you'll take as it relates to taking care of your child, or in this case also adults as well. I mean, if you have a parent who has Alzheimer's, a parent with dementia, these are issues that you can be doing and need to be doing on a regular basis. Such things as who's going to be doing the showering, who's going to be making sure that the medication is in place, and that everything's in order so that no needs are left unmet. And so it's important for us to write these things out in a way that we can all understand, we can see it very clearly. You need to talk through those decisions, come into a mutual understanding as to what we need to be doing as a couple and as a family as well. And when it comes to communication is so essential, and not just in any marriage, but especially in a marriage that has the special needs issue as well, that you need to give really focused attention, intentional attention to each other, and offer solutions without jumping to conclusions or coming to a conclusion that is judgmental. Again, you need to be able to talk through these issues in a healthy way. Do not shut down when someone is saying something that you don't agree on. Again, continue to talk through those issues. Show respect to each other. We are strong advocates for having family meetings as well. And we bring the children around the table. When they were old enough, we made sure that they were around the table, and we were discussing some real practical life issues with them. And they began to understand that we do this as a family. This is just not mom's job. This is mom and dad's and your job as well. And today our girls are young ladies that are just the most compassionate, passionate people that we know. And it's because they grew in that home where love was nurtured, and that the needs were addressed by everybody across the family. And we do also make sure that our calendars are coordinated as well, so that we're not taking advantage of each other, and we're taking into consideration each other's schedules as we go ahead and plan our day.
We find that that's one area that has been really helpful to us. Sometimes we'll go for a cup of coffee, or we'll go out for dinner, and we'll take our calendars with us. We're both pretty busy with ministry opportunities that we have. Joe with discipleship, and me with some seminars for organizational planning and so forth. So what really helps for us is to take the calendars with us, be able to look at those calendars, make sure that we're on the same page, make sure that he gets to do some of the things he'd like to do, and me as well. And that's part of that divide and conquer. And really it's part of pampering yourself too, because when I get to do some of the things that give me life, I'm a much more fun person to be around. If I'm caring all the time for our son, or in the past when we cared for my dad or for Joe's mother with Alzheimer's, you know, that can really be wearing on you. And so you need to have something in your life that gives you life and gives you sort of that extra spark to go the extra distance for that unexpected journey that you have in your life. And then really to just be able to help each other out. So as you're going through the calendar and planning, really look for ways that you can help each other in your everyday life. Just a few thoughts for you in that regard would be looking for specific things that you know the other person, your spouse, or maybe it's even another person in your family. Look for ways that you know you can help them, that might help lighten their load. And sometimes, we get in a situation where we're thinking, I really don't want to help that person out. But the more that you take that first step, it will help the other person to eventually also take that first step and help you also. And then to discuss with each other as husband and wife what works and what doesn't work. And when you find that some things aren't working, reevaluate the plan and say, this just doesn't seem to be working for us. Let's see how we can do it that will be more productive, maybe even take less effort in the planning and in the execution of the things that we're doing. And then going the extra mile for each other. I really appreciate that about Joe, that he does seem to go the extra mile for me. And when I see that, how much I appreciate it, it makes me want to do that for him as well. And then giving each other space. If we're taking care of somebody a lot, especially a young mom at home, we need to have some space, maybe an hour a day. And I know for some people that sounds like total luxury, but if you have a spouse who's willing to hear you out on that, explain to them what would that look like for you? What would that 1 hour a day look like that would be really helpful to help energize you and recharge you? Because when you come back tomorrow morning, nothing has changed. You're still back into the same routine of what you have to do. And then, allowing each other to use your personal gifts that God has given you outside your home. And when we had young children, I was so appreciative that Joe had allowed for me to teach Bible studies and do other things with women, go out to lunch or have prayer groups with other women, because those were the kinds of things that allowed for me an avenue of using my gifts, but also getting out and, as I said earlier, giving me life. And so those things are really helpful in a marriage to be able to see how you can help each other out.
That's so true. The important thing also to keep in mind is that you need to prioritize how you spend and invest your time. For us, the most important thing in our lives is our relationship that we have with our Lord Jesus. But the next important relationship is this relationship right here. And this is the most important relationship. I need to be investing in this relationship and making it as strong as I possibly can. And then after that comes taking care of our children. And we love all of our children as you love all of your children as well. But as it comes to taking care of special needs, again, this is a family thing. We need to work this thing together so that we're moving forward and enjoying each other's company and growing together and growing in love for each other as well. Everything we do, we bathe through this grid of God's grace and love.
Back when our kids were little, we had our one daughter who had this school outing for a couple of days, and it was sort of related to science and their education, and they were going to be gone for 3 days, sort of a camping adventure. And part of what they were going to be doing was horseback riding. We had to sign a waiver that we wouldn't hold anybody responsible, and we decided not to sign that for her, that we didn't think she should go horseback riding. Mind you, she was in 4th grade. And so we felt like that was the best interest of our daughter. But we made that decision based upon our son, who probably couldn't even really sit up on a horse. Now, our daughter was fully capable of being able to do that. So the sadness of that decision was she was the only one not given permission to be on a horse. And we didn't really know that until a little while later, and we really felt badly about it. But what we didn't find out until she was already married and had left the house was that she was the only person in the barn with this, older lady, and trying to make conversation with this woman for over an hour. And it really taught us, even though we learned that lesson a little too late, that we were just overprotective. And of course, by the time our 3rd child came around, we just signed waivers for anything. It was like, sure, you can do it, you can do it. And we teased our children that we loved that child more than the other one, which of course is not true. Right. But we just let them know that, we as parents do not do everything perfectly. And we want you to know that the reason we made that decision was because we loved you and we felt like we were doing the best for you. So now when we go places and there's horseback riding, we always make sure our second child, our daughter, Christina, we make sure that, do you want to go horseback riding?
She gets the biggest and fastest horse.
Yes, and it's always just a fun joke now that we've
right.
Learned from that lesson.
Absolutely. But because of the dynamics of a family with special needs, it's important for us as parents to make sure that we spend time with the other children as well. I think looking back over raising our children, one of the best investments I made in my other children was that I made it a priority to date my girls. And I mean, we'd go out to breakfast or lunch together. I mean, we're talking McDonald's here or Burger King. We're not, Ritz-Carlton was out. But we just had a fun time. And it wasn't something that was planned on the schedule or anything, but when we had time and we could go do it, we went and did it. It was just a fun time together. And they look back on those times now as just special times for them hanging out with Dad. And we talked about little stuff that was important to them, but it was fun to be able to do that. And the other aspect is we need to be very intentional to also provide spiritual training for our children as well. We see that as a priority in our lives. We see it as a priority in our family as well. And I'm blessed to be married to a woman who has taken on that responsibility to disciple my girls. And to this day, our girls are just growing strong in the Lord. And it is because of Cindi being just very intentional and purposeful, making sure that aspect of their lives was being addressed. There is a great book out there by our good friend Charlie Boyd entitled Different Children, Different Needs. Different Children, Different Needs. And in that book, Charlie does a great job of just showing the reality that our children are different. And the better we know our children, the better we can minister to them, we can serve them, the better we can be as parents to love them in a way that would make more sense to them. And we are just very, very proud of each of our children. And I think I know it's kind of a running joke in our family, but I mean, it seems like all the time in my phone conversations with our daughters now is I always say something to the effect of, I'm just really proud of you, I just love you. And they say, yeah, Dad, we know you're proud of us and you love us, but the reality is I am. And I need to tell them that all the time, I feel. And so there isn't a time where we don't want to come across as our focus is just on the special needs child only, but we have to also there are other children here that need to be addressed as well. Again, our family is as strong as this relationship is here. If this is not strong, then there's a ripple effect throughout the rest of the family. So the priority relationship is this relationship here between Cindi and I.
And then really just teaching the children that life isn't fair. There were often times when our son Joey was little that we couldn't do things, or perhaps we prepared to do something and then we couldn't because of maybe a behavior issue or an illness, or maybe his seizures kicked in. And so we really wanted for our children to understand that life isn't fair, it's not always going to go as planned. And we love the scripture verse, Psalm 138:8, which says, God will accomplish what concerns me. And that's what we wanted for our girls to learn. And we wanted our son to learn that too, but he would not understand that in the same way that they would. And then we need to really respect our typically developing children in such a way that we treat them with giving them responsibility and allowing them to grow and be nurtured in the way that God has gifted them. And I really thought that as the kids were little, that it was easy to see where each one of them, where God kind of was planting them, and to be able to learn who they were and let them grow in that place. I didn't want to take advantage of the girls and say to them, you know, because you are able to, we want you to watch your brother while we go out. If we did that, if we had them for their babysitting services, we treated them just like we would a babysitter from outside the home. And so we would ask them to check their calendars, we would tell them how much we would pay them, and we also let them have one friend over, a girlfriend, since they were girls, and we would say, you know, once Joey's in bed, if you guys want to watch TV or whatever, you can do that. But we employed them the same that we would someone that wasn't from our family. This way we felt like we weren't taking advantage of the girls and that they were able to also grow in the ways that God had for them. And then lastly, to just consider time with each child one-on-one. And I was so grateful that Joe was so intentional with the girls for his day dates with the girls. And really now it's fun to watch as young women what a great relationship they have with their dad. So I think it's important to have that one-on-one time. Is it easy to do? No, it's not. But as Joe said, it has to be purposeful. And one of the things that we recognized doing for our girls was that when we would take time just with them, maybe of the four of us, we would ask one of the grandparents if they could watch Joey, if there was something we wanted to do that maybe he wouldn't be able to do or wasn't appropriate for him, loud noises or too big of a venue kind of thing. And it got to the point at one opportunity that one of our daughters said to us, you know, I feel like Joey is loved more by the grandparents than we are. And you know, we never recognized from that angle what it looked like from our daughter's point of view. And so we said to them, well, how about if instead the next time you can go to the grandparents by yourself and we'll take Joey and do something. You know, here we thought we were doing what we thought was best, but that's part of the open communication. When we would have those family meetings are the times that the girls were able to share those things. And we made sure that we were open to it, even though maybe we were hurt, maybe a little bit like, wow, we missed the mark and we didn't do what we thought we were doing such a good job doing. We just listened, we made sure that we took to heart what they had to say and then made the corrections along the way. Well, let's talk just a little bit about some rules that we might have for family members, our own family members within our home. The first golden rule is from Matthew 7:12, which says, therefore, whatever you want others to do for you, do so for them. And Mark 12:31 says, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So we wanted our girls to be able to understand that others come first and that we want to treat everyone within our family as well as outside of our family with the kind of respect, love, kindness that we would expect someone to treat us. And we kept that monthly. We would choose different character traits. One month we might choose kindness. Another month we might choose self-control. Another month we might choose another character trait that we would work on. We would have the girls learn how to show kindness as well as how to receive kindness. And that was really helpful in developing a relationship within our family that was conducive to growth and love and caring for one another. And we love to use the acrostic to the word team, T-E-A-M. Together, each accomplishes more. And we wanted to work together as a family, and we let everybody know in our family that we work as a team. And that goes for getting permission to do things. Don't come to just dad or just mom. We work together as a team. And then to talk nicely to each other. We did not tolerate yelling at each other. We didn't tolerate unkind words to each other, and things like belittling or causing harm to the other child verbally. And we wouldn't want the kids to start trouble with each other. Now, is that to say that they did that perfectly? No. Do we do that perfectly? No, but that is our overall goal. And when you make that your overall goal, it becomes more intentional for you to act in that way. And then we wanted to be fair within our family, but also for them to understand that life isn't fair and there's going to be times that things don't go quite as you planned. But in being fair as a parent, I think it's very important not to play favorites. And so if you hear within your family that one of the kids is maybe not feeling like they're being treated fairly, take that to heart and then make the adjustments to what might make that work just a little bit better. We always have felt, too, that keeping our word was important, not just for our family, but for friends and extended family as well. And when we let our yes be yes and our no be no, they knew exactly what we were saying. And so we didn't have a lot of confrontation in our family. If we said yes to something, the kids knew we meant yes. And if we said no, they meant that we knew that we meant no as well. And we also didn't want to have anybody excluded, not in our family. When we went to church, we didn't want people to feel excluded if we did things in certain ways or with our families. And I really feel as a family having taken on that particular theme in our life, we also saw that played out within the schools. Often the teachers would say things about the girls, about how helpful they were and how they included other children. And so when you do that, not only in your own life, that will permeate other areas of your life as well. And even when you are at a point in your own life when you're tired of listening to, your child or your parent with Alzheimer's say the same thing for the 500th time, and you know that we're not exaggerating, just understand that as you work together in a family, that you love that person and that you tolerate some of their behaviors in a way that shows that you love them, that you're not embarrassed, and that you can be patient with them, and that you can help them through that challenge.
Okay. And one of the things we always come back to, is, you've heard it already by us, is just the importance of making sure we're on the same page. And so we would have regular family meetings. And one of the questions we would always ask at these family meetings to our girls is Mom and Dad spending enough time with you? And thankfully, most of the time, it was like, you're spending way too much time with us. And that's great. We wanted to hear that from them. But we needed to be very intentional to let them know that that was a concern of ours, that it's an important issue, that Mom and Dad are paying attention to you. And oftentimes when we are counseling or discipling people, I'll have guys oftentimes who are very busy, and they'll say things like, Dad, Joe, I just want to spend quality time with my kids. And I say, well, that's a wonderful goal to have. But the reality is that quality time happens in the midst of quantity of time. And you need to be very intentional about making sure, just like you schedule that meeting with somebody in your business, you make sure that you are set aside time to be with your family and with your children as well. And so you want to make sure that you minimize the opportunities of not making sure that everybody's on the same page. Everybody has roles, they have responsibilities as part of the family to serve each other and work together as a team, as Cindi said.
And if that happens to be part of what is an issue for you and your family, I do have a book that's recently out, and it's called Balancing the Active Life, and it will help you to look into some of those areas that might be of issue for you, if that's of any value to you. And then I'd like to talk a little bit in terms of relationships. We've talked about our marriage, we've talked about our extended family and siblings, and we've talked just about family relationships. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about relationships with friends. And that can be a little bit tricky sometimes, because especially if you're in the younger stages of caring for someone with special needs, it's really hard sometimes to get out and make friends. And we found, even when we were younger, I think probably in our young days, I can really only think of one person who extended an invitation to their home with us and our whole family. And so we had people in our home all the time, and we would just keep inviting friends and having meals and inviting special needs people over, because people, I think, were reluctant. I don't know if they didn't know how to take our son, how he behaved, if they didn't know how to treat him. So when we wrote our book, Unexpected Journey, we wanted to talk about that aspect as well, so that other people would be able to understand just some little things that would help them to not be so embarrassed, uncomfortable, or unaware of how to act and how to be around a child or a family that has a special needs child.
I think the important thing is we're trying to talk about just being a friend. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything in order. Just be willing to reach out and extend yourself a little bit. And again, in our culture, I think we nurture this mindset that everything has to be just right. The table has to be set just right. And consequently, what happens is that we lose the opportunity to interact with a lot of people. And as Cindi said, that was an area of our lives where we just felt a little sad about the reality that wasn't being reciprocated back to us. But Cindi is a great host, and she has a great gift of hospitality. So we always had a lot of people at our home.
And we enjoyed it. We did enjoy
Yeah.
having people in our home, but the reality was I think people were reluctant to have us in their home because of a special needs child. Maybe there were other reasons too, but that might have been one of them. But we need friends in our life, and so we need to nourish and nurture that aspect as well. So some of the things that I think would be helpful is just helping your friends who maybe don't know what to do or how to act and respond, helping them with just a few little pointers along the way. We have many more in our book, but we're going to share just a few with you today. First of all, if you're just meeting someone for the first time, introduce them also not only to all the family members, but to the person that has special needs. It is easy sometimes if a person's in a wheelchair to overlook them, or for some people to pretend that they're not there. And so make sure as the special need parent or caregiver that you introduce each member and also the person that has special needs. And if that person seems a little uncomfortable, mention to them, as we would, our Joey is not in a wheelchair, but we might say, Joey, would you like to shake their hand? And then that person will automatically put their hand out and shake Joey's hand. Trying to make them comfortable to sort of bridge that gap between what the uncomfortable feeling is to a reality of being comfortable.
And at this point, Joey's now 30 years old, and he is now able to say, how are you? And sometimes they usually don't understand what he's saying, but we'll repeat it. Joey says, how are you? And so making that, bring down those barriers between you and somebody else is really important.
Yes. And also to understand for that person that's your new friend or even a friend that you've had for a while, to help them understand what's acceptable. And maybe they'll talk really loud or something like that, even though the person isn't hard of hearing. Don't correct them necessarily, but to explain to them, Joey really enjoys visiting with people, and sometimes loud noises might bother him. So if a loud noise happens and he gets a little anxious about it, just understand that he'll be fine in a minute. Sort of preempt what might happen. Give them a little bit of heads up what reaction your child, your son or daughter might have. And maybe they have, if there's too much stimulus, noise, maybe even being in a large venue. What is it that makes them uncomfortable? And make sure you can share that with your friend. And then if they do ask about the disability, give them explanation that you're comfortable with. I love when people ask me a question about Joey, because then I feel like they want to enter into our world, and I really enjoy that. And if you feel like you are sharing that with a friend and they don't want to go there, then maybe just back off a little bit and kind of ease them into where you'd like them to go into this relationship. Also, it's okay to ask special needs people to repeat themselves. And sometimes I have to ask Joey to repeat himself too, even though I'm his mom and I pretty much can interpret for him. But I appreciate when someone asks and tries to truly understand them. I did have one time which someone went up to Joey and began talking with him, and Joey wasn't really able to enter into that conversation. I let that person go just for a minute. I didn't want to make them uncomfortable, but I wanted to give them a chance to get into try to figure out Joey, because I saw that they cared. So a minute or two later, I went over to that person and I said, how nice of you to come and introduce yourself to Joey. I said, one of the things Joey's really interested in is sports. And this person then began to engage Joey in a conversation in sports, at which time I left, because Joey can talk a lot about that topic, and pretty understandably, because it's just a few simple things that he will know. Then when I noticed that maybe it was a little bit uncomfortable again, I went back over there and I thanked that person for their time with Joey, and I said, in a way that wasn't dismissive of them, but I let them know that sort of you're free to go. You don't have to talk to Joey all day about sports, because people don't want to be, they want to be off the hook a little bit too. They don't want to have to be with that special needs person the whole time, perhaps. So be gentle with them and try to understand where they're at. And then just keep simple conversation, keep it short, and end the conversation politely. And if you notice that people are uncomfortable, just be very appreciative to them so that they can feel that they were granted access into that little bit of the world at that moment. And then let them know that they maybe need to ask one question at a time and give some opportunity for that person, the special needs person, to think about the question before they can answer. We tell people with our son Joey, you have a 10-second delay. So in your mind, just think that he's not going to probably respond for about 10 more seconds. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for us sometimes, and sometimes we get a little frustrated because we would like things to move along a little quickly, but they aren't going to happen that way. Life is only one speed with a special needs person usually.
And talking louder is not going to make a difference.
Yes, yeah.
They can hear just fine usually, so talking louder is not going to change anything.
Exactly. And then when conversing with a person who is blind, you can say things like, oh, I see, that's acceptable. You want to be careful how you would phrase certain things perhaps, but there are certain phrases that are acceptable to a person that has special needs. So don't overweigh, maybe tell a friend not to overweigh in their mind things that they're saying, and just be careful, but don't overweigh it, because you want them to be comfortable in that situation, to speak with that person comfortably. And if a person is in a wheelchair, if you're able to, if the friend is able to stoop down and be more face-to-face with them so that they're not always looking up at you is very nice and very helpful and very accommodating to them as well. And to just stay pleasant and positive. Us as a parent and as one instructing a friend, but also to tell the friend to stay positive and pleasant. I did have a situation one time where someone in the presence of our son kept saying about his team losing. Well, we don't want to go there too long or too often with Joey because he can get a little behaviorally upset. And so we tried to rephrase how this person could say things, and this person was not getting it. And finally, I did just have to say to this person, it's really hard for Joey to take a loss. And so maybe we'll change the conversation to this other team who did happen to win. And they have to understand that. But if they don't understand it, it's going to be difficult sometimes to correct them in a loving way that also they learn from. So try not to correct them in a way that shuts them down or puts them
Somehow folks who have good intentions think that they can correct our son's behavior within 5 seconds or 5 minutes by telling them, this is how you do it. Well, if that was how you did it, we would have done it 30 years ago. And so they just need to just kindly, as Cindy said, just kind of be told that this is how we need to deal with the situation at hand.
And it's helpful if either one of us can help that person to understand. And if we do it in a way that is not corrective, but helpful, I think we get a better response from people. Well, let's talk just a little bit in our last remaining minutes about teachers, aides, administrators, other people that are in our life. Our son had a great experience in his schooling, and we are very happy to be able to say that. But we worked very hard as parents to not only involve ourselves in his education, but also watch for certain things that would be helpful. And those are the things I'd like to share with you right now. The same as we talked about having a strong marriage and a strong family relationship and strong friendships, we want also for you to have strong relationships with the people that you work with, not only teachers and administrators, but people like doctors and other people that are in your life. As a parent, I know that I can't do it all myself. I was not trained how to help my son learn from one step to the next. And so when we would go into our individual educational plan meetings, our IEPs, I made it a point that teacher and those administrators were there helping me and helping our son and helping, us as a couple. And so when they would ask, what would you like Joey's next step to be in his learning experience? If I had something on my mind, or if Joe did, we would express to them, here's what we'd like to see happening. But honestly, most of the time, I didn't know what the next step was. And so I would yield to them and express to them how important it was for me to do what they needed me to do. So I would ask them, could you please help me to understand what is Joey's next step to helping him get to wherever you see him in 5, 10, 15 years. And then I would, and Joe would, at home, incorporate into our everyday life what he was learning at school. But one of the things as a parent is, we can't deny that our child has special needs. If at first you are looking at things very closely, you might not see the special needs very carefully, but as it's brought a little bit further from you, you will be able to start to see that. And as you begin to see that, be realistic and let the professionals help you to do what you can do as a parent. Make your child a priority, and you'll do that by accepting not only the diagnosis that your child has, but also the kinds of treatment, their treatment plan, their school educational plan. Be in the loop with all these professionals, and as much as you can as a team. I did go to most of the meetings and presented us as a couple to the meetings because Joe was working. But if I ever had a need that I needed him there, then we would make those kinds of meetings together.
And you have a much stronger position together than individually. And so we are both advocates for our child. And that sends a strong message to the teachers and administrators that you're not just dealing with one person here. You're dealing with a husband and wife, you're dealing with a family who loves this child. And so you are the one that must be driving the situation in terms of just being a strong advocate for your child's needs being met.
And when you express those needs, be strong, be firm, be positive, rather than demanding and expecting certain things. Maybe if there's something that you don't understand, that's your opportunity to ask questions and be able for that professional to express to you what they're seeing from their point of view. I don't think I ever went into a meeting where I ever expected anything because I really didn't know what was next. So that was probably a plus for these professionals, that I didn't really know what to expect next. But I always went in asking the questions and making sure that I understood where they wanted to see Joey next, so that I could help them in that process. And then to be realistic about the needs and abilities of your child. I think one of the frustrations that I saw from other parents was when administrators and teachers and aides would not expect for their child to be put in a regular English class or a regular math or history class. And I remember thinking, why would I want Joey in a particular class if he wasn't able to do what they were doing in that class? I did not want him to be in a babysitting situation. But a lot of parents were demanding that their child be in a situation that they really weren't ready for. And so as a parent, I was trying to also help other parents when I was able to see that their child needed to be where their child was most productive. And teachers are the best ones to be able to see where that is going to happen. And as a parent, to just not expect to always get your own way. I would love for Joey to have graduated from high school with the regular diploma and had gone through and gone to college and do all those things. Well, we would have loved that, but that wasn't his journey. His journey was unexpected. And so we put him where he needed to be, and he excelled there. In fact, when he graduated from high school, we were invited to his vocational place of teaching at the time, and we didn't realize that he was going to be awarded because of the great job that he did in his own area of work, which was learning how to clean tables and do minimal work in a place that would someday employ him. And we were so proud of him for being able to do that. And then when you have a problem that arises, talk to the teacher first. Make sure that you're going in the right chain of authority, that you're not going to the superintendent first, that you're going with the people in the right chain of authority. And as I said before, not to demand things, to offer to be in the classroom. We would offer our time in computer lab, art class, and we would go in and help when we were either off of work or available. And the teachers really appreciated that. Helping make bulletin boards, things that you could do to help the teacher. And then when you don't know what to do, to ask for help. Because there's a lot of people out there who are very much willing for you to be helped and for them to be the ones to get you to the next step. One of the things that we did have too, as we get ready to close here, is that we had a notebook that we kept for our son. The notebook is probably about this thick, and we took it to every place that we went. whether it was a meeting for school, a doctor's meeting, and as he got older, work assessment meetings. Every time we went to a meeting, we brought that book, and it was a little intimidating, and yes, it was meant to be, because I wanted people to know that I took our son very seriously.
Absolutely.
And that we had everything we needed right here to be able to help you do what you needed to do. So we hope that some of these things were helpful to you. If you have opportunity to get our book, Unexpected Journey, we would hope that that would get you to the next place that you need to be. We're pretty certain that you will find your story in the midst of ours. You'll find yourself between the lines, I'm sure. And so we thank you for the opportunity of being able to be with you and for this great summit. And we wish you the best in your parenting or wherever that leads you in life.
God bless you on your journey.